Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to log to database in Azure Data Factory. Now when you have triggered runs in your pipeline you can see the output of those triggered runs. However, it's not the greatest environment to be trawling through, especially in a production environment when you're not going to be wanting to log into ADF. So by logging to database you have all of that information available to you, but you can use the T-SQL language to go and filter out the bits that you want and query on what you're interested in. So I'm going to show you that today, and I'm going to show you the bits of information that I'm typically interested in, which is which pipeline ran, which component, when the pipeline ran, how long it took, so you can look at performance over time, which is critical, how many rows were affected, and obviously any errors that came out of it. So let's jump into the ADF pipeline and take a look at that now. So here we are in our ADF development environment, and what we're going to be doing today is adding logging to an existing pipeline. And in fact we're going to add it to the dynamic query pipeline that we built last time. But it's worth reiterating that there is logging available in ADF. Obviously in the debug environment you have all of your output, which is massively helpful, as we've spoken about before, in terms of the outputs in particular for building your pipelines. But when your pipeline is triggered, either via a schedule or manually triggered, as you can do here, then that information is all held in the monitor page. So you can see all of the historical pipeline runs here, and you get all of that logging information available to you. So we're not talking about logging to database as a replacement of this. It's an enhancement to the process. So typically on a day-to-day basis you're not going to be wanting to log into your ADF production environment and checking your logs. You want to have some sort of reporting that runs from your database, and you can set up SSRS reports, you can set up triggered reports, you can go and query the information in there and see whether things are degrading, potentially see whether something's still running. It's just far easier to have the database as your starting point, and then if you need to dig in a bit deeper then you jump into your pipeline. So if we just go back to the example here, what I'm going to show you first is actually a lot of this information for the logging is behind the scenes in the database, and all of these scripts, including the JSON for this pipeline, will be included on the website, and I'll give you the link to that. So if we go and have a look at our database, we've got a set of scripts here. So the first thing we're doing is creating a logging schema, and then we are creating an ETL log table. So we've got our ETL log ID, we've got our pipeline name, our component name, the start and the end time of the component, how long in seconds that component took to run. So as I said earlier, it's great for looking at whether the pipeline or the component is degrading over time, the performance of it is degrading over time, how many inserts, updates, deletes, and whether there's any error message that could come out. Obviously really important that as well. So there we've got some internal logging information, so internal audit information, and then so what I've tried to do is to create a generic table. So it won't just be used for your pipelines, potentially for your stored procedures that are running, they can fire off into the ETL log as well. So we've got two stored procedures, we've got an insert ETL log and an update, and I would explain why we have the two in a minute. But what we do in terms of the insert is we're just passing in all of that information that we were after in the table. So pipeline name, component name, etc. And we've got a number of nullable parameters here. So again, trying to be flexible with it and generic. There might be occasions where you get everything that you need for a log at insert time and you don't need to update that log later. So this gives you that, you can call this one procedure rather than calling an insert and then an update. And we're just going and then inserting that information. And the only thing really of note here is that we're returning back the scope identity, so the identity that we've written into this table, as our ETL log ID. And if we go and have a look at our table definition again, this column is an identity column. So what we're doing is we're making it inserting a new log record and we're giving ADF the log ID back so that when we go and do the update later, it knows which record to update. And again here, if we look at the update ETL log stored proc, we've got our ETL log ID being passed in, and then we're saying this is the end time, how long it took, inserts, updates, deletes, and any error message. So a little bit of logic here where if we don't have the duration in seconds, which we do from the ADF copy command, but if we don't, we can go and calculate it from the start time from the original log message or log entry and the end time we've just passed in. And then we're just going and updating the record, and again we've got our audit columns here that we're passing information into. So that is it from the database side. Let's go and have a look at what we're doing in ADF, and let's go and create a new pipeline. So what we'll do is we'll take dynamic query as our starting point, because this is the one that I've edited previously. Let's go and clone that. So we'll just create a copy of that. We'll rename it to logging with a G on the end. And first thing we're going to do is, before our copy command, we are going to go and create our ETL log. Now what you can do is just have an ETL log output after the copy, which is absolutely fine. But the reason that I do an insert into the ETL log before the copy is if this is a long running process, with the insert before it, you'll know that it's running. If you only have the logging afterwards, well, you'll know when it's finished, but if it takes 5 hours, you'll be checking your ETL log in your database and there'll be no entry there whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is just move my set variable, make a bit of room, take off this, and now, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a lookup, and that we're using the lookup because we need to retrieve the ID. So let's just link those back together. So let's name our lookup something like create ETL log, ETL log entry. And now for our settings, we're going to our static demo DB. We're going to use a stored procedure, and the stored procedure we're after is insert ETL log, and we're after the first row only coming back. So that's going to be our ETL log ID that comes back to us. If we now click the import parameters, this is going to go and find all the parameters from the stored procedure, and there's various bits of information here that we'll be interested in setting. So component name, if we just go through these, we're going to add dynamic content. So the component name we don't know. Basically there's a load of system variables here that we can use, but it's actually another component that we're after. So the component name actually is going to be copy data 1. So this is based on a string value. Just stick that in there. The number of deletes, we're not going to know that at this time anyway, so treat that as null. The duration we're not going to know yet, treat that as null. End time again, error message, number of inserts we're not going to know yet. The pipeline name we are going to know, and we can pick that up from one of our system variables, so we can just stick the pipeline name in there. The start time we can set is now, so we can go and find one of our date functions, UTC now. And then the number of updates we're not going to know either. So what we can do now is we can run that and check that we get a log entry created. So I'll just check that I haven't missed anything there. And let's give this a go. So it succeeded, brilliant. So first thing we can look at is just the output of our create ETL log entry. So we see we've got a first row ETL log ID of 1 that's come back, which is exactly what we want, and we can just go and check in our database that we've actually created a record there. So if we go into our demo DB, our ETL log select top 1000. There we go, we've got an ETL log ID of 1, pipeline name is logging, component name we've hard coded that, and then we've got our start date there and our insert user and our insert time. So far so good. So now if we jump back to our pipeline, what we're going to do is create the update part of it. So for the update, because we don't need any data coming back, we can use a stored procedure. So a stored procedure in ADF is kind of a fire and forget. You don't get a response back from it. So if we do stored procedure 1, we'll say this is going to be called update ETL log entry. And things are slightly different because we are using stored procedure. So our Azure SQL Database, that's where we're connecting to. Our stored procedure we're going to connect to is USP update ETL log. And then again, if we import our parameters, we've got our whole list here. So if we just come back to our, if we go to our output and have a look at our output from our copy data, this is really where some of this information that we're going to be logging is held. So rows copied is one thing we want. We've got our copy duration, so that's another thing that we're interested in. We're also interested in our errors, which is an array. So let's just try and go and create or apply some values to some of our parameters for our stored procedure. So deletes we're not dealing with, so we're just going to treat those as null. Obviously the copy command doesn't give us deletes, it just tells us rows affected. Duration in seconds we do have, so let's go and add dynamic copy content for that. I believe that is copy duration. So what we're going to do is say our output from copy data 1, we want copy duration. End time, we are going to set that to UTC now. We don't have an end time in the output from the copy command. So let's set that to UTC now. Obviously I could type this. Error message, so we are not getting an error message in this. So we'll just treat that as null for now. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So our ETL log ID, so this is going to be our, so it's from the create log entry, it's going to be, lowercase f, first row, dot ETL log ID. So that is going to tell us which record to update. And then we've got the number of inserts, which is going to be, got the copy duration there. Let me just go and check that. Rows copied. So copy data 1.output.rows copied. And then our updates we are going to treat as null. So let's give it a go. So we'll go, it was going to create a new ETL log entry, hopefully. Let's see what it does. So we have succeeded, all good news. So let's actually have a look at what's gone on in the DB. So we've got another log entry. We've now got our end time, we've got our duration, we've got our number of inserts. Brilliant. So we've had our, obviously we created the log initially with the insert command or with the insert component, and then we've updated it with that store procedure component at the end. So all good so far. So let's throw a bit of a spanner in the works and let's basically make our statement break. So if I just take off the E on where for our copy command, hopefully we are going to see something break. we have had a failure, and we've had a failure in the copy. And if we go and have a look at our copy, the output, we will see we've got a nice big error come back saying incorrect syntax near registration date. Lovely. So that really is an error that we would like to get hold of, and what we want is to get our error message back. So that's one thing, is getting the error message. The other is that, well, we haven't even updated the log entry. We haven't got that far. So if we run here, again, we've got the start, we've got no end. So there's two things we need to address there. So here, our constraints, our precedence constraints, are all on success. So we're only going to this store procedure call if the previous component succeeded, which it didn't do. So what we are going to do is create a copy of this version here. And now I've already gone and said I'm not interested in the error message on this one, on success, which is good. Let's change the name of it to on success, and we will create a copy, Control C, Control V, and we will have an on failure. Now we will have another link here, just right clicking on the arrow there, and then I'm going to change this to on failure. And now we need our syntax to get our error message, and because it's held in an array, it's a little bit more of a challenge. So let's give it a go. So we are going to say copy data1.output dot, I think it's an uppercase E for the error, but we'll check. And then we want the 0 valued array, and we want dot message. I think it's actually the message that is uppercase, so all of this is case sensitive. We'll check that in a second, and because it's an array, we want to fetch it as an array. So let's have a little look at that. I'm just going to go and check the syntax there, or the case. Sorry. Oh, click the wrong thing. So it's errors rather than error, and it's message that I'm interested in. So let me go and jump back here. And it's errors 0.message. We'll try that. So let's give it a go now. So we should run through onto our failure path. Oh, we've both failed. Okay, so let's have a little look as to why that failed. So if I just look at my error coming out here from my update, so it's telling me that the rows copied cannot be evaluated. Okay, so this is part of the challenge with working with the JSON here, because we've got an error that's come out of the copy data. Some of those values that I'm looking for, some of those attributes I'm looking for, don't exist because it's errored. So there's no rows copied item. So I thought it was going to be a problem with my error message. So far it hasn't been. But basically what we're going to do is say rows copied. If I just get rid of that, because we know it's been a failure, we're just going to treat that as a null. So let's give that a go again. So this is why it always involves a little bit of trial and error, and why those outputs are so key to what you're trying to do. But hopefully this will have made the process a bit easier for you by me stepping through it. So brilliant. So I've got a success, which is great. So we've flowed through, and on error we've actually jumped down to our on error stored proc. So let's have a look at what we've done. So look at this. So our log ID 5, pipeline is logging, blah blah blah, duration is 2 seconds. This is what we're interested in. So this has pulled out the error message from that array. from the array in the the output of the copy command, and it's giving us all of that information that we're interested in: incorrect syntax near registration date. So all of this information, if you imagine having to trawl through the pipeline logs, all of this information is available to you. So if you want to report on it or do a quick query where error message is not null, all of this information is available to you in the DB. So logging is just such a really powerful thing. I always do it in my ADF pipelines. I always do it in my SSRS packages, especially those production environments where you're not going to be on there all of the time. So that's great news. So what we'll do now is let's just set it back to what it should be in terms of our initial query, and let's just check that our success still works. All succeeded, sounds good so far. Let's check the DB. Item 6 took 3 seconds to insert one record. Brilliant. That's exactly what we're after. So I hope you all really enjoyed that video. Maybe really enjoyed is a bit too strong, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. All of the resources are available on the website, and this time I've included the JSON for the ADF pipeline, so you can have a look at that. I hope you all stay safe. Finally, thank you very much to my 50+ subscribers now. Thank you very much. I hope you're all enjoying the videos, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.